Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be a two-parter because this painting took a long time to finish and I would have had to sped it up quite a bit for the time lapse. So the next episode will be coming out in a couple weeks. As I start to get into the painting here, you can see I've already done the underpainting off camera. I usually do underpaintings like you can see here, which are just paint thinned with mineral spirits, and I'll let them completely dry before I start on the next layer. The underpainting is all about setting up where you want to go with the painting, so most of the values and colors are off in one way or another. That means I basically end up repainting everything again, but since there is more information down already, I can use that as a roadmap to get much more accurate with colors and values. Oftentimes on this next layer, I'll start to exaggerate the colors slightly, knowing that they'll likely dull down as I continue to work more values and details around them. You'll also see that I'm trying to add different color temperatures at certain spots. So the shadows are typically a bit warmer in this case, and the halftones coming out of the shadows or moving towards the shadow have a bluey or purpley kind of color to them. I also want to get the background value in as soon as possible so I know what my value scale is going to look like. I know how dark I'm going to go in the background and how light I am going to go with the roses. One of the deficits of doing a very thin underpainting is that you can't go very dark, so I end up layering another thin layer of paint on top of the background underpainting to get that value much closer to where I want to be in the end. I also often find that having a nice sharp edge of background around the rose can really make it pop. That also allows the center of the rose to remain nice and soft in comparison. Working my way through each rose, my main goal is to make them look illuminated, so I think a lot about the direction of light and the light and shadow shapes and values that it creates. You can see this especially in the very early construction of the middle rose. I'm using the darker shadow value and just laying in the shadow shape before adding the lights and the halftone shapes. I'll start to make things a bit more complicated after I have that basic relationship by adding a variety of dark, light, and midtone value shapes. Although I do want my flowers to look nice and soft and naturalistic in the end, another thing that I focus on in the early stages is keeping things blocky and simple. I don't want to get into too many details yet. With a larger still life like this especially, you want to make sure that you bring all of the elements up in detail at the same time. I don't want to finish one rose at a time without knowing how they'll all end up looking together and making sure I balance the certain amount of detail that one might have compared to another. Metal vases and anything reflective really are all about abstract shapes. It's almost as if you're painting a distorted version of the room around you more than you're painting an actual vase. You'll do best if you just focus on copying the shapes and values as closely as you can. And then, to make things feel shiny and reflective, I want to make sure that I keep the values of the vase relatively dark so that the highlights can really pop. Painting metal things can really impress viewers, but it's actually quite simple, as long as you can keep the contrast for the highlights and paint those distorted shapes from the surroundings as best you can. As you can see, I've already done another thin layer of paint on the background, and I'm going to do the same for the table as well. I personally like the effect of thin layers of paint on top of each other. I think it can give a flat area some life, and it also allows me to emphasize the main subject of the painting with thicker paint. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember that part 2 is coming up next week, and if you liked it, please consider sharing and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.